Hello, beautiful souls. Emilie Lapierre with you here again today with one more channeling from the origins. This time they dive into thoughts, beliefs, how information energy becomes thought, the effect of highways of thoughts within ourselves, ways to alleviate, change, modify those pathways, highways, and a third interesting new option that they present. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the three options and what you feel about what's been said here. If you wish to open a conversation about it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if any of you have experimented maybe with the third option, I'd love to hear about that too. So let me just dive in. We wish to communicate with you how we open doors of communications between our worlds and realms. It is a particularly interesting and somewhat vital at this point to share this with regards to what is about to unfold. It is not a message of fear, but rather a message of love and of promise that what is coming is so filled with light. Yet as all these things come to pass, you, as the receiving humans, understand it through the eyes of fear of the unknown, fear of the new, fear of making a mistake, of causing harm when the intent was to hold and support. Yet what is coming speaks directly to that. This literal physical misalignment that creates this gap between what is desired and what is achieved. This gap in humans is perceived negatively as the house of deviation. Yet as you know, the brain and synapses and the process of how information energy becomes thought, you know that that gap is the key ingredient that allows for information energy to be read by the brain function as coherent thought. As that is occurring, it has jumped into the unknown to become known. As it has, you would say, closed the gap, it has understood a pathway, a place to cross. It has materialized a bridge for that line of energy information. The more you stay on that thought, the bridge widens and becomes a highway. These energy information highways, if not processed or rather left unattended, will begin to take on a great presence in the physical body, affecting the different systems in a way that is coherent with the energy information highway that is taking precedence in the system. In most humans, there are a great variety of these active at the same time, some resulting in very contradicting thoughts, others logically aligning. It is important to know that this term of logic does not refer to the validity or veracity of the thought, rather that it takes them into a cohesive whole, where they assemble together in a way that makes sense in your reality. When you hear phrasings like, your beliefs make you, and other such affirmations, it is to say that once these highways are very large and create a widespread influence on the system, they influence how you perceive reality in order for this to become your truth, your foundation, and it affects your materiality. So, in actuality, these sayings depict a very real process. As you know, shedding light on one of those highways of energy information and cutting its flow, if the energy information path is not a match for your own coding, is all possible, and many humans use and share tools on how to achieve this. Yet, it is requiring to interrupt information energy pathways, and not all understand the need to redirect this highway and transform its vibration. Otherwise, the path simply reopens in a different stream or merges with another similar frequency highway, leaving the human feeling like they're constantly revisiting things they thought they had released. Also, keep in mind that the interruption of a pathway creates a temporary empty space, which magnetizes energy to it in order to be in equilibrium. Unless that process is addressed, there is no choice of what energy will replace the interrupted one. So, a different solution presents itself, which is the process of light expansion. Rather than looking for, or we want to use the term hunting for, non-resonant pathway and efforting their replacement, there is the possibility to expand your energy awareness in all directions, which has many effects. One of them, the main ones, is rebalancing the influence of these highways. By creating a wider stage, the highways become less powerful or meaningful, and an ease washes over the system because it no longer feels confined to the physical shape. In that state of greater energetic ease, pathways naturally realign in their optimal direction, which alters the nature of the thoughts that result from them. When the human comes back into his or her physical body, there is a slight recompression of these energy pathways, yet there is a definite adjustment that has happened that contributes to a desire for realignment towards ease. If that is done only once or sporadically, the effect is not so obvious to the human awareness. Yet, if done regularly and for effective periods of time, there is a sense of effortless ease that permeates the reality encountered by the human. That is a very useful habit process. We are now coming to a different option that requires a very high level of trust, which involves a reconnection of the synapses in full alignment. It involves a great expansion, a full alignment, and slow reinsertion into the physicality, while keeping that ease and flow so that each connection can be made in its optimal form. It requires assistance in the light form from a loving co-creation of trust and support, so that this gap is finally sealed and the inherent physical connections fully active. It is new for humans to contemplate existing in this form, yet that is a sure way of holding heart alignment in all aspects of the self. Yet, it also gives access to the full energy potential of the human physical body. This may seem alluring or frightening, depending on which perspective you adhere to, as that is naturally what the human body is calibrating to, its desire to reconnect to its original purpose. We are so pleased that this has become available and possible. Yet it will alter significantly the way reality is perceived for humans during the transition and reconnection. Know that some in your human history had gone through this process in its second explanation, and many of you are now on that path. So this third new option is merely a gift of acceleration of the process in assistance of your elevation. It is available for those who call for it, and there are many benevolent energies willing to assist and support. We are so pleased at this new junction and hold all of you in great light. We are the origins. So, with this one, as I was writing, I was seeing something. So I'll try to describe what I was receiving while writing. It was mostly about the second explanation, about the great expansion, and I found an analogy that kind of explains it for myself so I could make sense of it. What they were speaking about, the expansion. I was really imagining like a balloon blowing. And about the need for it to fully reopen, kind of imagining the origami piece of paper that's all folded into the shape that we are, and then slowly unfolding that into the piece of paper that it is, so its original full shape, and letting it breathe so that the pathways can no longer mean so much. Because if you look at something close up, the pathway may look this big, but if you look back, then it will look smaller. And I think that this is what they're referring to. So even though it seems to have a lot of occupy a lot of space within the shape as it is, when you open up to the full shape that you are, it doesn't actually hold that much sway. And so in that way, everything is more peaceful when you're in expansion out of yourself, expanding your energy. And then when you bring it back in, there is room for the pathways to realign to a more optimal shape. And then when they say if you only do it once or sporadically, you only feel the benefit of it, but then you keep contracting as you go about your reality in your daily life. You keep compressing and returning, and sometimes you don't get the full benefit of that realignment. But if you keep at it and practicing, and I imagine that they mean the state of meditation or any state that allows you to feel the bigness of your energy. The bigness, it's a new word I just made up. And there was also this image that came to me, this analogy of taking the clothes out of the dryer and stuffing them into the drawer, and then they just have to push down and try and close the drawer because the clothes don't fit in. So if you imagine your own energy inside your body being squished because you haven't taken the time to align your pathways, and then what you're doing is actually taking the energy out of the drawer, ironing it, folding it, putting it back so it fits nicely and there's more space. So that helped me kind of understand the process. Now what they're talking about in the third option feels to me like cementing the alignments, so going as far as you can so that you're in full expansion of you, so all the pathways are fully aligned, so your origami paper is fully flat and all the lines are where they should be, and then actually folding it perfectly into the shape that it's supposed to be, you, and then saying, that's it. I trust that that's it, and I trust that I can grow and expand in that shape, and that's the shape that represents my original intention to be, my original origami shape that I decided that was going to be when I came in here. I think it's, like they say, a massive leap of faith to say, I trust that I know my shape, and I trust that if you connect me permanently in that way, that's the way that I will allow myself to move in the optimal path. But what they're also saying is that this is what you're tending to, this is what you're desiring, and this is what you're doing when you're practicing the number one or number two. You're desiring this full shape alignment. You're desiring to know your exact origami shape that you want to be. You're desiring to trust that when you fully open and flatten everything out and that you redo the lines perfectly, that this is who you are. I think that it would be, like they say, a gift of acceleration of something that we're already trying to do naturally, because we're tending to, in the previous messages, they talk about the light human. So I imagine we tend towards our original purpose of light human. And I see it truly as a gift of acceleration. So rather than having to practice folding, unfolding, and folding, unfolding until we understand that this is the shape that we've chosen, and to say, I trust this is the shape that I've chosen, and then I will get assurance, and then I don't have to spend all my energy working on the fold I can just use my energy to move forward into the world as that fold, knowing what that folding is, knowing what that shape is, knowing what I am, and presenting that center point fully aligned, and then moving forward. Any thoughts, any comments, any ideas, any experience on your part connected to that, I'm really curious to hear and receive. So thank you for spending that time with me. Once again, only take from the message and from my view on it what resonates with you, and always go look inside yourself for that resonance in the messages.